sales, business, it is a survival skill. Yeah.
Survival skill.
It's a survival
Wow.
skill. Yeah,
Go
100%.
deeper into that one.
Yeah. So just like a 9 to 5, a 9 to 5 is not going to give you that survival mentality. Only because it's like you have a secure 9 to 5 job, right? You are on a paycheck to paycheck. It's cool. It's nice. Nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. It's when you start to dabble upon business and understand that you have to rely on your whole mentality, skill set, and drive to actually build something, right? And if it fails, are you willing to go into survival mode and just be driven enough to to get yourself out of that position, right? And there's always going to be consistent obstacles, right? This is an empire that you're building from the foundation, whether it be, even trading, it's any sort of venture, right? So it's a survival skill, and not many people have that survival skill mentality where it's like I have to do it. Like it will work out as long as I don't give up. Like that mentality is so hard most people don't have that because they will reciprocate that, or they will think of it as, okay, it's not for me. Right. Yeah.
No, you're right, man. I agree. I think it is a survival skill. I agree with you in that, because you are learning how to acquire resources without a cushion or without a safety net.
Yeah.
I might add, and I've learned this from Ty and a few other people, and just a lot of, when I was reading the most when I was younger, a lot of things are hereditary as well. Like, for example, things like IQ, extremely hereditary. Eye color, extremely hereditary. Testosterone, things like that. So sometimes some people are, and shout out to Patrick by David, who also talks about this, some people are better off being like the number 2, not the number 1.
Yeah.
Not everyone might have the risk tolerance or the courage or the dog-headedness to do what you did and start up 15 different Shopify stores and have one of them win. On my side, not many people would have been willing to, go as hard as I've been going with sales in one model that's extremely competitive, to now in the last 2 years, I'm starting to get my major licks in. So I think some things are hereditary. I think a lot of people do some, and this is it's not a very popular opinion, but I think even things like politics, I think a lot of politics is also hereditary. There's some people that culturally, if they're in different parts of the world, they're exposed to certain ideas that better suit them based on the environment and the weather climate. Like people don't think, I feel like people just only think level 1 or level 2 layers deep. But if you look at level 4, 5, and 6, a lot of the times people default to their primal hardwiring. So as a Christian, I'm even aware that religiosity and it's, again, people won't like this topic, but even religiosity is largely genetic, right? If you look deep enough into, because there's some parts of the world where you had to believe in something because, things was, as a very poor example here, but maybe it was such a heated and hot and uncomfortable environment, and maybe there was a lack of access to certain infrastructures that allowed people to get access to survival resources like water or energy and stuff like that. Therefore, and I say this with commas, therefore they were more open to, depending upon a figure. Now, the reason why I believe in Christianity is for a bit more of a different reason, in my own, again, still primal perspective, because a lot of the time people believe in religion out of fear, right? And a lot of people run away from that reality. So tying it back to entrepreneurialism, I think people need to really understand, let me actually look at my parents. What is their risk tolerance like? It was my mom, someone that took a lot of risk growing up. If it wasn't my mom or dad, it wasn't my grandfather.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my grandfather that was a business guy. One of my grandfathers was and I know your story, so I can't wait to hear you talk about this in a bit. But my grandfather, he was a big business banker guy in Nigeria. I was running paid ads earlier in the year, and I had a lead come in. They were booking on my Calendly. And this guy, Nigerian, I was like, oh, okay, this should be an easy deal, like a Nigerian. Yeah. And he was in Canada. And he's like, on the phone, the first 10 seconds, he's like, he said my full name. I was actually a bit like, taken off, because we both been finessed before, and I was like, how do you know my full name? And he's like, I know your grandfather. I was like, that's a weird opening. He actually knew him from when he was younger, and my grandfather's passed on. So, because my grandfather was such a big figure in Nigeria, but both of my parents, they're not entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. So sometimes when you look down your family line, you can actually figure out, okay, is there an advantage I have at a genetic or a primal level that increases my odds of actually winning this entrepreneurial game? Because it is a high stress tolerance, very diplomatic, very sharky environment in which a lot of people are not built out for that, and they can have a heart attack at fucking 32. But when it comes to your primal side of things, was there any, family, additions that might have given you an advantage?
I'll pretty much sum this up as much as I can, but essentially, so for my biological father, didn't grow up with him. Mother moved here in '97. I was born a couple months a couple months after, when she freshly moved from Africa, right? And and then she eventually met her partner, which is my stepdad. Shout out to him.
Shout out to him, man.
And father, current father figure. And essentially, I've got two siblings, and they're from his side. And like I grew up not knowing about my father's side until I was 12, 13.
Real.
Right? And it's funny because when I was starting business, I only came to find out when I was like 18 that he was actually a very successful businessman.
So I'm trying to say. I'm trying to tell people.
Right? Yeah.
It's genetics, man.
Yeah. But and pretty much he was into like old money. So he owned like gold mines and like diamond mines back in Africa.
So your father owned gold mines. Wow.
Like diamond mines in like parts of like Tanzania, and Kenya and stuff like that.
Yeah. Shout out to Future Diamonds from Africa.
Yeah. He was mining those, and he was selling, like and he had like multiple laboratories for like pure like just like pretty much verifying, like certifying the actual stones and
Incredible.
making it like legal to sell. And he was selling that all across Africa, even in China as well. He was traveling to China a lot as well.
Incredible.
And all parts of the world.
Yeah.
So his mindset was crazy. So essentially, he was proper entrepreneurial. But he was also giving back a lot as well. So within the community, like back in Eritrea, he was known as like the Robin Hood of like,
that's incredible.
Eritrea. Like,
and that makes sense with your personality, because you're very giving, you're very diplomatic, you're not very like you're a shark, you're a savage, but you're very, very fair. You're very fair, and you're always looking to include people. So you probably got that from your dad.
So a lot of Eritrean people that I meet, like that I've never met in my life, they're like, oh, like I know your father. He was giving back a lot to the Eritrean refugee camps back in Eritrea. Like they knew him for literally giving back loads of just money and supporting families,
altruistic,
like people that he barely knew. And it was just he would go to these refugee camps and give. Right,
it's incredible.
But he was worth, like back in the '90s, like well over 10 M's USD, like 10, 20, 30 M's.
Telling you guys, man, genetics is real, man.